was dreaming of this revolution since I was a child, 10 years of age. And I was dreaming of it, and the revolution was delayed 70 years. It's ongoing, powerful. Many powers, external and internal, want to hijack the revolution, including the fundamentalism, but we were not allowing them. The support of the army to the revolution helped the removal of Mubarak. But we won just one item, the removal of the head of the regime. The body of the regime is still there. There is a difference between the military, the younger generations of the military who are with us, and the leaders who are with Mubarak, you know. So like Muslim brothers, the leaders of the Muslim brothers are very reactionary and against women and against Christians, Copts, but the younger generations with us. So we have to separate between generations. You know, under Sadat, I went to prison because he and his wife didn't approve of what I was saying. And in fact, both of them, the wife of Mubarak and the wife of Sadat, stood against women rights in Egypt, against the they fragmented the feminist movement in Egypt. They played a role in my exile, in my prison, in everything. They banned our associations, including the Egyptian Women Union, because they wanted to have a governmental women council and to divide women, divide and rule. So Sadat and Mubarak regime was a disaster, not only for the economy and for the independence of Egypt and political independence. They brought to us the fundamentalists, Islamic and Christian. They fragmented the movement, men and women and youth. They corrupted the country. The mother of my father was a peasant working. But my father, because of his mother's work in the field, he was educated highly. He had a very good post in the Ministry of Education. And that's why he was able to send me to the medical college, you know. But this is because of the work of my grandmother in the field. If a woman is born in a village now in Egypt, from a poor family like that, her chances will be very difficult, not like me. With the revolution of 25 January, we expected that we will have more freedom of expression, but this didn't happen. Why? I am still censored till today. I cannot speak on the Egyptian government television. I cannot write in El Ahram, the big national newspapers. I write in a small opposition paper. And I appear on foreign TV or Arab, but not Egyptian. Why? Because, as I told you, it was only the head that was removed, Mubarak, but the body of the regime still there, including the media. The people who administrate the media, who control the media in Egypt, are Mubarak people. I am hopeful, always. Even when I was in prison, you know, I was very hopeful, and I told him Sadat will die, and we will, because he was threatening to kill us. And I told my colleagues, don't be afraid, he will die, and we will come out. And that's exactly what happened. I'm saying the same. The government, this government of Assam Sharif will go. The military has to obey us, or they will be conquered. The revolution will win because of the millions that are united. And because hope is power. Hope is power. If we lose hope, we lose 50% of the battle.
Nawal El Saadawi is a renowned Egyptian writer, novelist, and fighter for the rights of women and the working poor. She started writing in 1944 when she was 13 years old. She has published over 40 books and is widely read in her country and all Arab countries. Nawal El Saadawi was born in Kfar Tala, a small village by the Nile north of Cairo. She graduated from the University of Cairo Medical College in 1955, specializing in psychiatry. She practiced as a medical doctor, both at the university and in Kfar Tala. From 1963 until 1972, Saadawi worked as a Director General for Public Health Education in the Ministry of Health. In 1972, she lost her job in Egypt because of her book Women and Sex, which was banned. In her book Women and Sex, she linked health to economics, to politics, to religion, to history, and to culture. She was the first medical doctor to fight against the cutting of children under religious slogans. Her books were censored in Egypt, and she had to publish in Lebanon. Her first famous novel, Women at Point Zero, was published in Beirut in 1973. It was followed by God Dies by the Nile, written in 1976. This is the novel I will be presenting. In 1977, she wrote The Hidden Face of Eve, Women in the Arab World. In 1981, Nawal El Saadawi publicly criticized President Sadat and was imprisoned. She was released 1 month after his assassination. In 1982, she established the Arab Women's Solidarity Association. Her name appeared on the fundamentalist death list. She was obliged to leave her country. She began teaching at Duke University in Durham, North Carolina, and the University of Washington in Seattle. This is where she allowed me to attend her class, sometimes with my small children. I joined the Arab Women's Solidarity Association. Although I am not an Arab woman, Nawal welcomed me. She returned to Egypt in 1997 to continue writing. Nawal El Saadawi holds more than 10 honorary doctorates. She now works as a writer, psychiatrist, and activist. Summary of the publication, God Dies by the Nile, takes place in a small Egyptian village along the banks of the Nile. Zakaya, the protagonist, is a poor, illiterate peasant woman whose family is exploited and victimized by the mayor and his cronies. Zakaya's story is a tragic one of power, where one petty tyrant, the mayor, must satisfy his sexual lust for Zakaya's young nieces. The story leads to her revenge. This novel exemplifies the class differences and the religious oppression of women. In the face of poverty, her oldest niece has vanished from the town of Kfar El-Teen. The mayor surrounds himself by men that are afraid of him because they are dependent on him for their jobs and their financial needs. While all the men are religious, they pray 5 times a day and attend mosque. They only use religion to inflict power on the poor and the women. In God Dies by the Nile, the women, young and old, who live in the village of Kfar El-Teen are victims of the men with power. The mayor of Kfar El-Teen uses his power to destroy the females he desires. He does not stop at the destruction of the females and their families, but he also destroys the men who protect the women. The two sisters, Nefisa and Zainab, and their aunt Zakaya are powerless in the story. In the beginning of the story, when Nefisa disappears, never to be seen again, the powerful men of the town are sitting in a circle, smoking the water pipe. When the mayor sees the younger sister, Zainab, walking, he chuckles. The youngest is always the most tasty. He is referring to the young girl as a piece of meat. Zainab walks with her head held high and refuses to be a servant in the house of the mayor. She is strong-willed, but at the time when she is most vulnerable, the mayor uses her belief in religion to trick her and to work in his house. Finally, when she comes to him, she believes that Allah has sent her to him. This is the part of the process of stripping women of their identities, so it is easier for the men to control them. More importantly, in perpetuating the patriarchal system is to get its primary victims, that is, the women, to accept it as a legitimate state of human relations. A patriarchal system that enjoys the support of men but not of women is likely to experience a crisis of legitimacy sooner or later. Then, complete control of an oppressive system is attained only when the victims, through a process of cultural and religious socialization, become alienated. They learn to deny their basic needs and absorb the views of the oppressors. In this way, the oppressive system becomes mystified and gains further control. Another woman in the story is Fathia. She is the imam's wife. She suffers from not giving birth. Her husband punishes her by beating her in God's name. Meanwhile, Nefisa, the older sister who was raped by the mayor, gives birth to a son. The son appears on the doorstep of Fathia's house. She takes the baby in and loves and cares for him. This is an act of independence. She takes in the child against her husband's will. The whole village is against the child created in sin. The mayor has a man killed in order to cover up the rape. So the villagers did not know the mayor is the father. Fathia is then brutally murdered along with the baby for acting independently and for caring for the child. Her husband is also murdered for trying to protect her. The aunt of the two sisters is completely powerless. She works all day and has little to eat. She is the religious, observant one and remains so until the end of the story, when she has had enough of watching her family die at the hands of the mayor. At the end of the story, Zakaya kills the mayor with her hoe. Saber is the woman in the village who performs the duties of birth assistance, virgin verification, and genital mutilation. She is part of the oppressive system which keeps women powerless. The value of a female is based on her virginity. Genital mutilation is an inhumane practice which is enforced by economic, social, and moral ideologies. It has profound physical and psychological impact on women. It is a barbaric act to continuously keep women oppressed. Men enjoy sexual freedom and women are not allowed the same rights. This is an unequal society. Women are seen as sexual objects. They are to keep monogamous in order to control reproduction. So the men can be sure that they are the ones who have fathered the children who will inherit their property. Saber, the midwife, is part of the patriarchal system. As part of the process of alienation, entire institutions may emerge within the ranks of the victims themselves to perpetuate the crimes of the system. In God Dies by the Nile, this role is most clearly represented in Saber, whose functions include female genital surgery, defloration, and abortions. She even conspires to mislead newly wedded husbands about virginity of their brides. We are told that at wedding nights the midwife would tear the virgin's hymen with her finger to conceal the fact that her hymen was already torn prior to the event. Though seemingly in the best interest of the bride, in these conspiratorial moves, the midwife is reinforcing the patriarchal value placed on the sanctity of the hymen in the life of a woman to preserve the sense of honor of the men in the family. The most crucial role of the midwife is to uphold and reproduce the patriarchal system. All the women in God Dies by the Nile are used and abused for men. They have absolutely no power. El Saadawi paints a gruesome picture of the patriarchal society in the small village of Kafar el-Tin on the Nile. The abuse of religion allows the men to stay in power by indoctrinating the women with their religious views. God Dies by the Nile sums up what El Saadawi says in her book, Hidden Face of Eve. On page 4, she says, in any society, it is not possible to separate religion from the political system, nor to keep sex separate from politics. The trilogy composed of politics, religion, and sex is the most sensitive of all issues in society. This sensitivity is particularly acute in developing countries with rural backgrounds and culture, where feudal relations are predominant. According to El Saadawi, Islam itself accords a certain measure of equality that cuts across sexes, but the historical mediation by patriarchs increasingly led to taking away the rights of women. Many verses of the Quran refer to the fact that all people are equal before Allah. However, women were stripped of their rights at a later stage through Islamic jurisprudence. This proves that some of the laws pertaining to women are at variance with authentic Islam teachings and are a reflection of what politicians and men of religion professed at different times in Islamic history. The misuse of Islam to legitimize male exploitation of women is a strong theme in this work of Nawal El Saadawi's and returns again in all of her work. Muslim women are not a unique case of oppression due to religious bigotry. In El Saadawi's words, Islam is not exceptional in having transformed women into slaves of their men. Judaism and Christianity subjected women to the same fate. As a matter of fact, the oppression of women exercised by the temple and the church has been even more ferocious than by Islam. Changes in the situation were the result of social and economic development and the weakening grip of religion. In conclusion, the misuse of religion to legitimize male exploitation of women is a strong theme in El Saadawi's work, and it returns again and again.